everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Alice, and I'm going to be delivering today's session on report favourites and selections in Sage 50 Payroll. So two main sections to this webinar today. First of all is going to be report favourites. So I'll take a look at pre-update, post-update and historical reports with some recommendations for each. And then we'll move on to report selections too. So what these are, how to create one, and kind of how it can benefit you as well. We'll then have a quiz. So I do have, I think, 3 questions I've got there, just to end the webinar with a bit of fun, test your knowledge on what we've learned throughout the session. And then, as always, we'll finish with some further support and any time remaining for questions as well. So that's what we've got in store today. As I said, that first section is going to be all about report favourites. So in Sage 50 Payroll, you can find reports in a few different places. It all depends on when you're running them and what information you need as well. So first of all, we've got pre-update reports, and these are going to provide information about the current unupdated pay run. So this means that you can check things over prior to updating the records. They also give you the opportunity to produce payslips for your employees if you use printed or email payslips, and the payment summary reports as well. We've also got post-update reports. These provide information about already updated pay periods in the current tax year, so a few months ago, a few weeks ago, for example, but also year-end information, legislation, company information, and more. So once you've finished running payroll for a particular pay period, you'd probably run a few post-update reports just to keep for your records or to reconcile or troubleshoot with, for example. And then lastly, historical reports. So these are going to be for all updated pay periods in Sage 50 Payroll, and this does include previous tax years as well. And when you run a historical report, if you all it'll do is ask you to specify a date range. So if you want to view previous tax years information, all you need to do is specify that date range in there, and there's actually no need to change your process date with them. So really convenient for those. Now, before I dive a bit deeper into each type of report, I do just want to go straight into payroll to show you where to find each of these types of reports. So this is my payroll here. Just to give you a bit of context, so I've got a monthly payroll. I've already updated August, it's actually last updated 31st of August. So my next pay date is actually going to be 30th of September. And as you can see in the bottom right there, that's what my process date is set to. But in terms of these reports, so first one is going to be pre-update reports. These are going to be found in your payroll tasks. So we've got a payroll section there, and then the list of tasks. We can see prior to updating the records, we've got the option there for pre-update reports. So it's after I've entered the payments and done the pension assessment, if that's what you do there, pre-update reports. Now, another place you can run these from is actually the process map. So if you're a user who uses that map to process payroll, let me just show you there. So I'll change the view to show that process map. I can see all of the steps for the pay run there, including those pre-update reports. And again, that's prior to updating the records. And I'll just quickly toggle that process map off again. Post-update reports, these are going to be found by clicking the reports icon above your employee list. Little tip from me as well, so if for whatever reason you can't see this toolbar, if you just go to view and then toolbar, that's just going to toggle that on and off for you. So it depends if you want that on view or not. But if you can't see them, you've got that option in the view menu, and then you would just click on reports there. So remember, these post-update reports, these are going to be for already updated pay periods, company information, legislation, etc. Then last but not least, you've got those historical reports. So these are primarily found in the payroll links section. So we've got the payroll section here with links and printing historical reports as an option. You can also find them in company and historical data. So that's going to come up with the same window, and I'll show you that kind of a little bit further into the webinar. So it's all well and good knowing where to run them from, but if you're not sure which reports to run, I'm going to go over some recommendations from us, and we'll start at the beginning. So we'll start with those pre-update reports. Now, 4 pre-update reports that we'd recommend and like to show you, and these are going to be the payment summary reports, part 1 and 2, payslips of course, and also the update records check report. These 4 reports are going to give you a really good summary of what's going on in your pay run, allow you to check things over prior to updating the records. So if you're new to payroll, these are going to be a really good starting point to reporting and keeping records as well. So let me go ahead and show you these ones. So back in payroll, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight my employees. And as we've seen, I have already set my process date correctly. So my next pay run is going to be 30th of September. We'll pretend I've already entered the payments. And I'm going to go ahead and click on pre-update reports. Now, if you do get this message come up, it's just likely, well, it is because of one of these reasons, basically. So we can see it's for my leavers. I've got those highlighted by accident. I'll click yes, and that's just deselected them for me, and then come up with that pre-update reports window. So different sections on the left, depending on what you're going to want. And then in that main part of the screen, obviously we're currently in the favourites section. I've got no favourites just yet, but this is where you would be able to see the different types of reports to kind of choose from on the right-hand side there. So let's go ahead and find those recommended reports. First of all, it's going to be the payment summary reports, which are found in the summary section, actually near the bottom. So this is in alphabetical order. I'm going to scroll all the way down there, and we can see those are the payment summary reports there. The ones I'm wanting are going to be payment summary part 1 landscape and a payment summary part 2 landscape. Now, I just prefer that layout, but as you can see, you do have different options depending on what you prefer. So part 1, you've got landscape or portrait. You can also include holiday fund and loan information too. And then for part 2, again, landscape or portrait. Just depends on what you need it for, what kind of works best for you. To preview this report, I can either double click, or I've got this little preview icon, which if I hover over it, does give me a kind of preview of what this is going to look like. So let's have a look at that one. Just give it a second to load there. Some of the reports do come up with different criteria. I'm just going to click OK on this, and it's going to generate the report for me in the preview window. Just going to make that bigger for you all to see. And this is the payment summary part 1 landscape. So this is a detailed breakdown of pay for the current period. You can see my process date there in the top left. And this is going to go all the way from that total gross pay all the way along to that net pay and kind of break that down. So we've got different things in kind of in between there. So tax, national insurance, any parental payments. So I've actually got an employee on statutory maternity pay there, along with totals as well for each of those at the bottom. And like all reports in Sage 50 Payroll, you do have the option in the top left to print this if you want to keep that for your own record, or export it if you'd prefer to save that to your computer, for example. So this is a really great report I would recommend for you. And this is one that I run regularly. So I'm just going to close this down and add this to my favourites by clicking this star just to the left of the name there. We'll see that turns gold. And if I just check back to that favourites section, I can see it's added that there for me. So it's going to be easier to find in the future. Now, a couple more reports I would recommend. So again, back to that summary section. I'll scroll down, and this time it's going to be the part 2 landscape for me. So I'll double click that one to preview it. Click OK to that criteria. And this report's actually going to show me a detailed breakdown of the employers' and employees' national insurance contributions for the current period. Of course, I've got all of the employees listed on the left with those kind of columns showing those breakdowns there. And again, totals at the bottom too. So nice, simple, clear layout, perfect for what I need. And that's the payment summary part 2. Again, with those export or print options in the top left. Another one I'm going to add to my favourites. Next one is going to be pay slips. Now, there are too many choices to go through individually with this. I'm just going to show you my favourite layout for the pay slips. So we've got this little collapsible section on the left, and then different types depending on how you produce the pay slips for your employees. So we've got dot matrix, not really used anymore. that section there, but we do have email and laser, most popular. I'm just going to use the laser 2 per A4 sheet. Again, preview this one. And this is a message I'd like to point out. So if you do have any employees on your payroll who are set up for the online services, so the online pay slips, it just brings up this message to ask if you'd like to include those employees set up for online pay slips in this selection too. Essentially just producing the pay slips twice for them. Totally fine if you want to. So I'll click yes to that. And it's going to bring up that preview of the laser pay slips. There we go. So a nice clear layout. Exactly what I need for those. We can see we've got 2 employees per page there. And I'm just going to close that and add that to my favourites too. If you wanted that layout with anything extra on, so like addresses, comments, any loan information and things like that, you can do. Or if you still use self-style stationery for your company as well for the pay slips, you do have a few laser pay slips at the bottom there too. Now, our recommended way of providing the pay slips, of course, is online using Sage HR. We would just recommend that it's quicker, more secure for your employees. They do have their own login to view them with that. But if that's not suitable for you, of course, whatever you would prefer, we do have, of course, plenty options in Sage 50 Payroll, just whatever works for you. Then that last pre-update report that I'd like to show you is the Update Records Check Report, and that's going to be right at the bottom of the summary section. So we'll go down and preview this one. That load up. So this one is going to be a summary of the main elements of the employee's pay, again for the current period there. It's got grand totals for gross pay, tax and national insurance paid, net pay as well, tax code and things like that. It is quite concise, so it's a really good report for kind of a last double check of things before you update the records for your employees. So another one that I'm going to add to my favourites. So if I go back to that favourite section, I can see those 4 recommended reports there, easily accessible, so I don't need to kind of check through those sections next time I run. I'm just going to click them from here to preview them. So that's the pre-update reports that I'd recommend. At this point, what I'm going to do is just kind of skip ahead to update the records. We'll pretend I've checked everything else as you normally would with a pay run. Always take a backup at this point when you're updating the records as well. And I've updated September's pay run. Now I'm going to be ready to look at the post-update reports. So again, you can find those, let me just show you again, that reports icon there just above the employee list. And that's going to come up with a window looking very, very similar to those pre-update reports, but this is full of different reports, of course, post-update records. So information on already updated payment periods in the tax year, company information, and more things like that. We can see I do already have some favorited reports. So I've got the 3 reports that I would recommend in this situation. I've also got a couple more too. So first post-update report that I would recommend is going to be the payment summary history part 1. We've also got part 2 as well, and then the P32 report. So this payment summary history part 1, that's going to be found in the employee section. And if we scroll all the way down, we'll see there's lots more reports post-update, but again, it's in alphabetical order. And I've got the payment summary history part 1, either by date or by employee. So these are generally used to kind of reconcile against the payment summary reports that we ran pre-update. And I just prefer the by date layout, but very similar, just depends on kind of what you'd prefer. So I'll run this one. And see, it does come up with criteria here, more periods that you can run it for. I am just going to leave that as it is though, which is actually just the current tax year as a whole. Click OK. It's just brought that up in a different window. There we go. And this is the preview. And this is showing me for each employee, we've got the kind of breakdown for each process date. So this is for April, my first period of the tax year. If we scroll down, we've then got May, June, July, August, etc. And again, very similar layout to before, except this is the post-update version. Really great amount there. That's already added to my favourites. I'll also just quickly show you that part too. This is going to be that detailed breakdown of employee and employer national insurance. And again, because I've chosen the by date layout, it's going to be for each process date in the tax year. So we've got April, May, June, July, etc. Employees listed on the left with those totals per payment period at the bottom there. And then the last report that I would recommend post-update is actually going to be the P32 report. Now, this is something that you would typically run at month end, and this is going to be a nice quick way just to check how much tax and national insurance, etc., is going to be due to pay to HMRC. It also shows a breakdown of just kind of generally just the amount you owe to them. This is going to be in the period end section. So you can see we've got Form P32, employer payment record, that's the P32. But it is also found in the quick link section from your payroll screen. So a little bit quicker to get to, just from payroll, link section. Of course, you can resize that if necessary. And we've just got the P32 report there. Let me show you what this looks like. So it does come up with criteria. You do have the option to choose the tax month that you want to run it for. I run this for each tax month as part of my month-end tasks. So I'm just going to keep that as tax month 6 for September and click OK. And that's going to come up with the report there. Now, just bear in mind with that criteria, so for the P32, this does run tax month to tax month. So if you want a tax month 1, you would set that criteria to 1 and 1. Tax month 2 would be 2 and 2, etc. Or at year end, maybe you want to run it for the full year, you would change the criteria to show tax months 1 to tax month 12, just to kind of bring the information for all of that tax year. So a P32, let me just make that a bit bigger for you. This shows a really great breakdown again of what you owe HMRC, so any employment allowance claimed, statutory payments recovered, apprenticeship levy payments due, and if we scroll down there, line 23, this is going to show you a total of what is due for the current period, or depending on what you've put in that criteria. Few tips from me with this P32 report. So if you're not sure whether you need to submit an EPS to HMRC as well as the FPS, check this P32 report. And if there is a total on line 23, which there is for me, that means you do need to submit an EPS. And also if you need to run the P32 report for a previous tax year, you are able to. You just need to change your process date to the relevant tax year in payroll, and then run the P32 in the same way. So let's say I wanted to run it for last tax year. What I would do is just change my process date to last tax year, ideally the last day of that tax year, so 5th of April 2026. And then you just go ahead to payroll links and run that P32 report, tax months 1 to 12, and that is going to show you that previous tax year, all of that information there for you. So loads of different recommended reports there. Just want to go over those for a little bit of a recap before we move on to those historical reports. So pre-update, remember that's for a current unupdated pay run. I'd recommend the payment summary part 1 and 2. I just prefer landscape, but of course you do have portrait and a few more for part 1 too. Pay slips, so loads of different options there. Laser 2 per A4 sheet is the one that I would go for, just for a nice kind of clear layout. You also have the option to add address, comments, loan information onto that too. And the last one there is just the update records check report, just as a last kind of double check ahead of you updating the records to save you having to go back and make any corrections. Post-update reports as well. So payment summary history reports, you've got by date or by employee. I just prefer by date, so I've popped those ones on there. And the P32 report, that is going to be a month-end report that you would run at the end of each tax month. So once you've done all the processing in that tax month. And that's another great report just to show, just to check. So if you do need to check if you need to send an EPS submission to HMRC, run that P32 report. If there's a total in line 23, that's a really good kind of way to just double check if you need to submit that. So they're the most common types of reports that you'd need to run. So pre-update, post-update. As I mentioned at the beginning, we do also have historical reports. And these are going to be found in the payroll links section, as I showed before, also in the company tasks. These can be ran for any updated payment period, even in previous tax years, and doesn't require you to change your process date either. So even more convenient, as I know sometimes it can get a little bit confusing changing your process date and things like that to find data. So really, really handy to know about there. In these reports, you've got loads of different sections to choose from. As you can see in that screenshot on the right-hand side, you can get information on attachments, deductions, nominal link, pay slips, statutory payments, etc. So loads of different things in there. With this, probably the most helpful thing is actually pay slips. That's probably the most common one that people use it for. You might have employees who've left or employees just in general requesting previous pay slips from last tax year or tax year before, for example. So it does make it nice and quick to get these without having to restore a backup or overcomplicate things to get that historical data. Popping back to the demo then, I just want to show you these. So again, payroll link sections where I'm going to get them from today. So printing historical reports. No matter where you run it from, you are going to get this criteria window. So you're going to specify the date range that you want to run the historical reports for. So just pop those dates in. If you want it to span multiple years, it can as well, just depending on what you need. So for me, I'm just going to put 6th of April 2025 to the 5th of April 2026. This is just last tax year. And click OK. And you can see it comes up with a very kind of familiar looking reports page there. It's actually got the same sections as the pre-update reports on the left there. So same layout, different sections on the left, different reports on the right. Lots of choice in here, but as I said, most common is going to be the pay slips. So if I go to laser, I've just got a historical laser, 2 per A4 sheet. I would just preview that in exactly the same way. Let that load up. And of course, there's a lot of different pay slips in here because it's for the whole tax year, but we can see it's got those in there. Which again, if you want to print or export, you've got the option too. So as I said, this is a great feature because once you've updated your payment period, you actually can't go back into those pre-update reports. So if you do ever need anything for an employee or for multiple employees, you've got them in here. And again, you can just favourite those in the same way as we did previously, so they're easily accessible for future. Loads more reports in here as well, but I'm sure you understand we don't have time to preview every single one. Too many reports in payroll to do that. But speaking of, I do actually want to show you some extra resources when it comes to finding reports in Sage 50 Payroll. Just in case you're not aware of, really, if you're ever struggling to find a report. I actually have them open for you. But that's going to be the Report Finder tool and the Advanced Report Library as well. I have linked to them on the handout, but I've already got them open, so let me just quickly show you. Here we go. So the Report Finder tool, first of all, this is just going to allow you to essentially just type in the report that you're looking for if there's a keyword or a particular thing that you wanted to show. So let's just say I wanted some information on an attachment of earnings order. So I type in attachment. That's going to show me all of the different reports available, which would include any attachment information with a description of them, so I can check which one I want. It's also going to show me where they're found. So if they're already in the program, it's going to say, click reports, for example, then legislation, reports and employee. So depending on what section they're in. But notice a few of them will say from the advanced reports library. So that's another resource that you can use to find reports. And these ones aren't already going to be in payroll. So these are kind of extra free reports, which you can find there. That's going to be the Advanced Report Library. So these are both found on the Help Centre, also linked in the handout. Just got a few instructions there of how to actually download them. Really, really quick to do so. And then we've got drop-down menus here for extra free pre-update reports that you could download for payroll. And same with post-update as well. So if there's something extra in here that you think you might need to use and isn't already in the program, you would be able to download that. So make sure you download the handout or make note of those resources for future. A lot of people don't know about them, so I always like to include that information there. But that does bring us on to the next section of the webinar, which is going to be a shorter one, but it's just going to be about report selections. So these are available for both pre-update and post-update reports. And essentially a report selection is going to allow you to run multiple reports at once. And it does allow you to customize the selection too. So let's say you've got a set amount of, say, 5 reports that you run every period. To save you from manually running each of those reports one by one, you can actually set up a report selection with those 5 reports included and produce them all in one batch. So it is going to be a massive time saver if you've got those kind of regular reports. And again, you can print or export those as either one file or as separate reports, just depends on what you prefer there. It does have its own section as well in the report windows, as you can see on that screenshot on the right hand side. So I'd actually like to go ahead and make one for those favorited reports from earlier. So firstly, I'm going to change my process date. I do want to create a pre-update one, and I've already updated the records for September. So let's pretend it's now October. I'm going in to kind of get set up for payroll, and I want to set up a report selection. So I've highlighted my employees. I'm going to go to pre-update reports. And of course, those favorited ones from last time. On the left, I can see a report selections section. Click on that. Then in the top left, you're going to click new. And this is where you're going to create that selection. So first of all, just type in a name, whatever you would like to call it. I'm just going to call mine general monthly, something like that, if you want a description. So let's just say general monthly or regular monthly report, sorry. Type in a description just to help you kind of differentiate this one from any other selections that you might make. And then it'll be time to pick the reports that you'd like to include in the selection. So on the left, we can see we've got the same sections as we had in the reports window, so nice and easy to find those reports. I'm going to go to summary, and I'm going to find that payment summary part 1, landscape, click on that, and then click add. That's moving that across into that selection for me. Same with part 2, I'll add that. And since we're already in this section, we'll also add the update records check report and add that across there. So those 3 are already in. And then last report, sorry, is going to be the laser pay slips. So I'll click on that laser section, and it's going to be the laser 2 per A4 sheet, as I showed you before. Now just keep an eye on these pay slips though, as I kind of add them. So it's the last report that I'm running, last report that I'm adding, but it's actually going to go to the top of that list. So even though it is the last report that I've added, it's always going to be in alphabetical order for a report selection, just to kind of bear that in mind if that kind of changes the order that you're doing it. If you add any by mistake, so let's say I just added the laser security payslip by accident, I would just highlight it from that selection and remove it back across just into that kind of regular reports list there. Once you've got the reports in the selection that you're happy with, just check them over there and then click save and then close. Give that a second to kind of load there, and there we go. We can see that report selection is now ready to use, and it can be favorited, similar to how we did the reports before. Let's preview this. So exactly the same way that you would do with a normal report, that's how you're going to run a report selection. And that's bringing up that preview, make that a little bit bigger for you. And this is going to show all 4 of those reports. So notice along the top, we've got different tabs. So I've got those laser pay slips, payment summary part 1, payment summary part 2, and the update records check report. So it took the exact same amount of time to run one report as it did to run this whole selection. And of course, that saved me time because I've actually run 4 reports in one. So really great way of saving time if you do have those reports you consistently run. Instead of manually, running 5, 10 reports one by one, you can just run that one report selection and do them all in one batch. Little difference with exporting these or printing them, for example. So we've actually got little drop downs here. So if we click that, we can either print the current job, the current report. So this would just be the update records check report. We could print all of these reports as a single job or all as individuals. So whatever you prefer for that, you've got the different print options, different export options too. So just the current report you're looking at, or all of them as kind of one file. And then you can close them individually as well. Or you would just close them all at once by clicking that cross in the top right. And again, just a reminder, we can favourite that. So if I now go to that favourite section, I've got the 4 reports individually if I just need to quickly check something, but I do have that report selection with that description showing in the favourites now too. And if you wanted one for the post-update records report, you do have just the exact same option in there. So report selections, you'll click new in the top again, and you just create it in exactly the same way that you saw there. So just a little recap of how we did that report selection. This again is something that not everyone knows about, but will be a huge time saver for you. So in that report selection section, hard to say, either pre-update or post-update, you'll click new in the top left. And then you're going to be able to select the reports that you want. So you've got the different sections on the left. You've got the reports to select in the middle, and then you're going to click add to move those across to the selection. If you accidentally add one, just click on it from the selection and click remove to move it back into that kind of regular reports list there. And then just click save and close to be able to use that report selection. So that is the main webinar content done, report favourites and selections. But one last section to go, which is going to be our quiz, just to test your knowledge. So I do have 3 questions for you all. Nice short quiz. But how it works is I'm going to launch a poll on your screens. You'll have around a minute or so just to answer each question. So select and submit your answer. I'm then going to reveal what you all thought, so the different kind of percentages of what you thought, and of course with the correct answer too, before moving on to that next question. So let me just turn my camera off and I'll bring up question 1 on your screens now. So question number 1, this is going to be, where do you find historical reports? And this is a choose all that apply, so there's multiple answers to this one. Where in Sage 50 Payroll do you find historical reports? Is that going to be in company and historical data, in payroll, then pre-update reports, or in the payroll link section? Remember, there's multiple answers for this. So which of those do you find them in? Is it one of them, 2 of them, or 3 of them? Great, I can see those answers coming in. Let me just wait a little bit longer and I will share those results with you and reveal the correct answer. Fabulous, looks like most people have answered there, so I will end that and share the results. Great, so 80% of you have said in company and historical data, 10% of you have said in payroll and pre-update reports, and 60% of you have said it's in the payroll link section. And you can actually find the historical reports in 2 places. It is going to be in company and historical data, so well done to 80% of you. And it's also in the payroll link section, so the other 60% of you as well, well done to those of you who said those. Fantastic, so question number 2, let me launch that one now. And this is, can you choose the order of reports in a report selection? So I did touch on this in the webinar, hopefully you picked up on that. So can you choose the order of reports in the report selection? Is it yes, you can add them in the order that you'd like? Or is it no, they're going to always be in alphabetical order? So remember when I just moved that laser payslip across in that selection, what happened there? Did it go to the bottom of the list or the top of the list? Great, see those answers coming in now. So can you choose the order of reports in the report selection? A little bit longer there. Great, and I will just close that and share those results as well. Okay, so 25% of you have said yes, you can add them in the order that you'd like, and 75% of you have said no, they'll always be in alphabetical order. So correct answer for this one is going to be no, they always are going to be in alphabetical order. So remember when I created that report selection, I added the laser pay slips, and although it was the last report that I added to that selection, it just went to the top of that list. That's just the way that the report selection runs, so just bear that in mind, just in case they're kind of shown a different order than what you're expecting. Great, and then final question for the quiz. Just launching that one now. And this is choose the correct description of pre-update reports. Pre-update reports in Sage 50 Payroll, what is the correct description for them? Is it reports for the current payment period or reports for an already updated payment period? Great, those answers are coming in. Thank you for that. Which of those do you think it is? And then we'll reveal the final answer. Fabulous. A few more seconds with that. There we are. End those results, end that poll there and share the results. So yeah, 100% of you have said it's reports for the current payment period and 100% of you are correct, so well done. Yeah, pre-update is for the current payment period and post-update is going to be for an already updated payment period. Well done. So thank you for your participation there. And well done if you got those correct. But that does bring us to the end of the main webinar content today. So before we wrap things up, I do just want to go through a little bit of further support with you, starting with our upcoming webinars. We do actually have National Payroll Week coming up in September, and we're running a badge series for it. So loads of exciting sessions to get yourself registered for. We've got Get Your Payroll Done, we've got Sick Pay and Maternity Pay, Pensions and the Pensions module, Payroll Top Tips and Time Savers, and of course another quiz. We've got the National Payroll Week quiz as well to kind of test your knowledge on all 4 of those sessions, multiple dates for each of them. And if you attend 3 of the sessions plus the quiz, you're going to earn yourself that National Payroll Week 2026 digital badge. So get yourself signed up for that by clicking register now on the handout or go to sage.co.uk/webinars. We also have our next HR advice webinar that's coming up on the 9th of September, and that's going to be the Employment Rights Act, key updates and what they mean for employers. So I know there are some changes upcoming with that, so if you deal with HR, this will be one for you. Again, click register now on the handout. That's going to take you specifically to this webinar's registration link, or for all of the webinars in general, sage.co.uk/webinars. We've got the Sage Help Centre too for any further support that you might need. So that's sage.co.uk/help. Here you'll be able to search the knowledge base and access different support guides, demonstration videos. We've got a whole webinar section as well, which includes all of the previous recordings of the sessions that we've run. And if you do need to contact us, you've got the get in touch options too. So those options before that I mentioned about the report finder tool and the advanced report library, they're going to be found on the Help Centre as well. Just type those into the search bar and you'll see those come up in the search results. But that has brought us to the end of the webinar. So thank you very much to those of you who've stayed to the end there. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Would love to see you on another webinar very soon, including National Payroll Week coming up. But yeah, for now it is goodbye for now.